Says we're going live. There's always a little delay. We might be live. Well, here we are. Hey, Angela.
Hi. You're like,
How are you
we're
tonight?
live.
Well, here we are. It's on.
I'm good.
Yeah.
How's Colorado?
Colorado is snowy, and my wife went skiing today. I wanted to go skiing, and I've worked, which is also nice because that allows my wife to go skiing. How about
Well,
you? How was
good.
your day?
Office work, teaching tomorrow. So today was a whole lot of stuff like, putting up acoustic panels and
Looks cool.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, looks really good. What are you teaching tomorrow?
Certified Scrum Product Owner, CSPO.
CSPO. I
Yes.
see.
One of
I
your
gotcha.
favorites.
Yeah. You know, I do love the product owner. And sometimes when participants show up, they just don't seem to know much about if it's, well, I've done classes for you. They don't really know
Hmm.
the difference between me, this Agile guy, you, collaborative leadership team, Scrum Alliance, Scrum.org. There's so many things out there. And tonight we
Right.
were going to talk a little bit about that. So how should we kick this off?
Well, I think let's start at the beginning.
All right. Once
Right.
upon a time,
In a galaxy far, far away.
I love that
Um,
story.
well, so Scrum Alliance. You and I both are certified Scrum trainers with the
Mhm.
Scrum Alliance. And a lot of people say, well, what's that? Um, and I'd like to point out that when Scrum came into being, or when this Agile thing came into being, the Scrum Alliance was kind of the first, right? They were like the first organization that got together. I think the Agile Alliance either happened simultaneously or shortly thereafter,
Mhm.
because one of the things the founders of the Scrum Alliance decided was certification, right? People like badges for things. So
Yes.
we're gonna transform the world of work, and in order to do that, we're gonna have to educate them. But people like badges, so let's do this certification thing. And I think the Agile Alliance maintains the position of we will never have any sort of certification. Like that's our differentiator. We don't ever want to go there. So the Scrum Alliance, as a nonprofit organization, um, it gives a lot of money back to the community, a lot of events, a lot of uh, free content that you can get if you just go to scrumalliance.org, even if they never take a class from Aaron Sanders or a class from me. And so I hitched my wagon to the Scrum Alliance pretty early in my training career because at that time they were the only show in town.
Same here.
you know, yeah. So it's like if you want to get certified in Scrum, this is where you go. Period.
Right.
End of story. Well, so now fast forward from 2003 to 2021. Oh my gosh. It's not, hey, who has Scrum certifications? It's who doesn't have a Scrum certification. And the thing I like to remind students who get kind of confused is that, for me, I made my choice and I choose to work with the Scrum Alliance because they're nonprofit, community led, mission driven. That kind of gets me out of bed, right?
Absolutely.
So, so when you look at some of these other things that have the words Scrum and the word certification in some combination in their
Mhm.
name, they're for-profit corporations. For their shareholders' profit, they're not mission driven. It's not, oh, we're going to transform the world of work. We're going to transform our bank account.
Sure.
So they were follow along after Scrum Alliance success. So I think the first thing that is important for people to understand is transparency. You and I both get our bread buttered by being Scrum Alliance trainers.
No, that's right. Yeah.
And do you have anything to add about why you stick with them?
Well, like you, uh, it was the only game in town. The guide level certification, it was trainer only. I got I got really lucky early in my career. Actually, my first agile coach was Pete Behrens, and I talked to him. What do you do? Why do you do it? And I realized that's what I wanted be. And it took several years to actually get to that level. And I stick with it because you really need to be an expert to be a guide. Or at least have varied experience. And so I'm not handed material to teach. It's not
Right.
in some repository. Given a set of objectives, I'm allowed to design my own curriculum and modify it, co-train with others, collaborate a lot. So that's why I stick with it. Is I do see people in the community I've known for a while, I've come to enjoy working with, and I get to work with them, and that's a big part of it for me. That helps get me out of bed too.
Yeah. Nice. You and I like to joke that we were in the same class because you and I were both 2011 CSTs.
Yeah, that's right. Class of 11.
The class of 2011. It's like X-Men first class, but we
Yeah.
weren't first. We were later, but
I think we're first class. I'm pretty sure.
Right. So the thing that's happening, not only with the commoditization of the terms Scrum and Agile, or maybe not even commoditization, maybe subversion, because those terms get misused.
Co-option.
Yeah. Is that students really just don't know. You know, they're so confused, or they fall for some clickbait, you know, that just has the word Scrum and the word certified in them. And like I said, in some combination, they think they're getting Scrum Alliance. They think they're getting Certified Scrum Master. And then lo and behold, they find out far later that they didn't. A lot of times after they actually took the class. Because you and I are both approved educators to deliver the advanced stuff.
Yeah.
And recently in my January advanced CSM, I had a couple of really upset students who, you know, paid their money, got there, and then they're like, what do you mean CSM? Yeah, I have that right here. And they're showing me, you know, a certification that has nothing to do with the Scrum Alliance and nothing to do with the CSM. I'm like, you're right. You have a Scrum certification, but it's not
participation award, certificate of attendance,
like
something like that.
Here's your participation trophy. Because they always think that that'll help, right? Like if I can't find them in the database, you and I have done that, like, oh, let's just go look you up, right?
Yeah.
No. And then when I see the name of the vendor on the certificate or whatever, then I have to say, so sorry, that's not actually, you know, from the Scrum Alliance. And then like, what do you mean? Well, okay. There's colas, right? There's Coca-Cola, there's Pepsi-Cola, there's Royal Crown Cola. Does anybody drink RC Cola anymore? I don't know. I'll probably get in trouble for that. But
Jolt.
Right, Jolt. Gosh, do you remember Jolt? So
Mountain Dew. We're going to get in all sorts of trouble here eventually.
I know, right? So I'm like, hey, you're in a Coca-Cola class and you want me to say Pepsi's great and I'll recognize your Pepsi. And they're like, oh, I get it now. You know, so they don't even understand that there's competitors out there. Yeah. And I just feel sorry for the students. So I don't know.
I don't either. It doesn't happen that much, but I do see it happening. And it's phenomenal to me, an unexplained event. And I wonder what we can do about that to make sure they're valid before they show up for an advanced class. Basic is something different, I think.
Yeah.
Take anybody, as long as they're willing to learn.
Right. I always call it your driver's license, right? You just have to show up a couple days behind the wheel, take a quiz, you're permitted on our streets, right?
Yep.
But I think if we flip it around and look at it from people who don't know, right? They just see the word Agile or they see the word Scrum and they think it's one thing. Funny story about a private client. I was doing a private CSM for this company who shall remain nameless so we don't get sued. And during the class, a bunch of people said, tell us how this fits into the XYZ framework. It doesn't. Well, they both have the word Agile being thrown around. And I'm like, they're competitors to each other. Well, why would our leaders do that? I don't know. That's a great question for your leaders. You know, I was hired to deliver the CSM. I'm delivering the CSM. So somebody must have said something to said leader who asks
Mhm.
for a phone call with me after the class. So we get on the phone and I explain to her you hired two competing organizations to teach your people all within a short time frame. No wonder they're confused as heck. And she says, don't all you people in the Agile community get along? You guys all have your values. Don't you all get along? And I said, do you have any competitors that you guys compete against in the
Mhm.
insurance world? And she says, well, of course we do. What a silly thing to ask me. I said, likewise.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, she's like, I had no idea. Well, so I, I think maybe after this many years, I might be just too jaded to be able to see the naivete behind, well, isn't it all just the same? So with empathy, I'm trying to figure out how how do we cut through that? How do we let the buyer beware, as we said in our introduction?
Yeah. Of course, if we could get some help from and we do, from the Scrum Alliance to make sure that people understand that they're mission driven and a foundation and help us market what's different from Scrum and other approaches and Agile itself. And maybe we need to do a better job at intake when there's so much of a copy paste Agile, I find anyway, and people are trying to latch on to something to help them and they think Scrum, Agile, that whole umbrella will do it. Oh, here's something, maybe after a quick Google search. And people are so busy and grabbing attention is so difficult. So I think you're hitting it on the head around empathy. And I don't know, some more collaboration across maybe some of the different organizations. I mean, they do have their value. Sometimes I put rum in my Pepsi. Sometimes I put it in my Coke. It still tastes pretty good that way. I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't put milk in my Pepsi. I know some people do.
Oh,
But there's some things that just they don't combine right. They don't taste right. And potentially we should help these folks spit that back out.
right.
Yeah.
The challenge is if they don't even know. Like I know you mentioned what can we do in our advanced classes. And so what I've started doing is sending out an email like a week ahead of time because we get the roster, pretty much a week ahead of time. And I'll
Hmm.
send it out and I'll say, hop onto your Scrum Alliance profile, make sure that the email address that was tied to your CSM is the one you want me to use because otherwise it won't find it. Da, 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 da. And that's how I've started checking. But then that assumes they read the email in a timely manner because I'm
Hmm.
learning in the year 2020, people don't read. Um,
No time for that.
and then when they do read and go, here it is. And it's nothing I can find in the Scrum Alliance database. And then we find out, in fact, they don't, right, have a
Hmm.
certification. So, but then they're asking me, well, how did this happen? How could that other company call it Scrum certification? Hey, welcome to the world of intellectual property, right? Welcome to the world of trademarking stuff. So when we say CSM, Certified Scrum Master, nobody else can call their Scrum program that. The Scrum Alliance holds that trademark. It's been upheld because, as we know, that's been challenged.
Hmm.
Boom. So if anybody else calls it that, they get in lots of trouble. But there's nothing stopping somebody from saying Scrum Master Certified.
Right.
Scrum Certified Master,
Yeah.
and now they've, skirted the trademarking stuff. And then they aren't necessarily teaching Scrum Guide Scrum. They're
Hmm.
teaching whatever they think Scrum is. And then the poor student goes, what?
Yeah.
So
How confusing for somebody out
yes,
there trying to
I
figure
call
it
it
out.
confusing the world of work. We're trying to
Yes.
transform the world of work. And some
Yeah.
of these folks are confusing the world of work.
And wow, do you really have to do some sort of research? I'm thinking about here in Colorado, I do ski and new season, whole bunch of different skis. And should I be on an all terrain or an all mountain? They both have the word all in them. Terrain, mountain, like what's the difference? Freestyle. I wind up doing so much work I want to take time for that. I'm a little bit of a nerd as far as that goes, but people just don't have time for that. Um, if somebody doesn't have the CSM, do you allow them in the class anyway?
Yeah, I let them know their options. I'm like,
Okay.
happy to have you because you can take the training, right? Like
Yeah.
that, we're just talking about the certification. Here's what
Right.
needs to be in place for that. So the training is the training. Like you can learn about the coaching techniques, the facilitation stuff, game on. Now, if you want the badge, we can fix that, right? We can get you
Yeah.
discounts to go to a CSM. We can fix that. But then they're like, oh, wait a minute, doesn't it have to be in order? That's the nice thing. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It's not a this then that, it's an and. So it's like, okay, you just took the ACSM and you just realized, crap, my driver's license wasn't really valid. We can go back and get you that. So not to fear, right?
Yeah.
So that's helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
And then there are times where they're like, no, I just want to save this for another time. Great. Happy to get you a credit. Happy to, roll you to the next one, refund you, whatever you need to do. But
I get it.
yeah.
Think about the like driver's license out of the Cracker Jack box. That's can't drive with that.
Right.
Sorry, we're gonna have to actually get you one first,
Yeah.
or
Right.
later. I don't know. That is weird because we can give you, to stay in the metaphor, some sort of advanced driving techniques like driving on ice. And then eventually you're going to have to go back and get the fundamentals. But it is okay to go out of order.
Yes.
And that happens more than once. Sometimes people will tell me, I just want the learning. I want the
Yeah.
class. I know I don't have the prereq. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to get it. Thanks for letting me in.
Yep.
Other people, they'll hold on to my information. Later, they'll say, hey, I got that foundational class, the CSM, CSPO. Can you go ahead and submit my information? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they qualify, they're in.
Yep. What I've even done is done the upload anyway because it won't activate.
Right.
If the months of experience aren't there, but if the lower level badge is there, you're right. It literally won't let us upload them. It is a stopper there. It is an impediment, if you will.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what Angela is talking about is a trainer at the Scrum Alliance is really your gate for that certification. We assess if you are matching up against the objectives. And if you do, and you've been participating, then we take your name, email address, and upload that. And that's fine for the basic. Works out all the time. I do tell people, bring the teacher an apple just to joke around. It's not true.
Yeah, bribes are
Just
accepted.
do the things. Yeah. But for the advanced, I do have to have a match against that
Yeah.
email and name. And if it's not there, system just blocks. There's no workaround
Right.
until you go get that basic cert.
Yeah, I posted recently on LinkedIn, and for anybody who does follow me on LinkedIn, you already know I say snarky things, but there was some clickbait that I did happen to see that was doing a
Okay.
really good job of putting, the words out of order, right? Scrum Certified Master,
Oh,
$2.99, blinking lights on the ad. And I'm like, oh dear God. So I did post a similar, like, let the buyer beware kind of a thing, because it's like, really, if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
it absolutely is. I know. I saw one, I think on Udemy. $50. Become a master with the Scrum. Something really dumb like that. There
Did you get a lightsaber?
Probably.
Come on with the
A little
force.
plastic one. There should be some things that make your spidey senses tingle, that this just doesn't seem to be right. And one of the nice things too is contact the Scrum Alliance. They are
Yes.
very responsive. If you think this doesn't feel right, let them know, and they'll
Yep.
turn around a response immediately.
Yeah, and I mentioned Scrum Alliance is a nonprofit, and in this day and age, you don't need to be a nonprofit to have a .org email address anymore, but because they have been around for a while, their official URL is scrumalliance.org.
Mhm.
And when Aaron's talking about the responsiveness of the support team, it totally is true. And it's just support at scrumalliance.org. I mean, it can't be any easier to get a hold of those folks and say, is this class legit? Or even if you just go to
Check
their
this
site, I
out.
think there's a big thing that says get certified. Oh, can we show it? Is that what you're going to do? We have the
I wasn't
technology.
thinking about it. We
Oh,
do. I don't know. Feeling very
I don't want
lazy
to jinx
tonight.
it. Okay.
I will put things in the description. I'll put different
Okay.
links and maybe even that email address in there for them.
Yeah. I know when we're live, it's like, okay, let's keep it real simple so that we don't jinx ourselves. Okay, I get it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I have fancy setup, but Angela, I'm actually testing, just leaving it alone. Just stay like we are. I'm going to check in, see if anybody has questions. Ooh. Anybody have questions? I'll keep looking at that.
Yeah. The other thing that I was getting, snarky about there with that post is sometimes there are people who are, I guess what we've started calling them as reseller. And I don't know if that's a term that makes sense to a lot of people, but this blew a couple students' minds when they told me, yeah, here's who I registered through. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I have no idea who that is. They're like, what do you mean? They sold me a ticket to your class. So it's like, okay, truth time. Here's what they did. They found my URL. They found my registration URL. So they made their own. They copied some of the information, like the date, right? The time zone, relevant stuff like that. They marked up the price, $300 to $400, and sold you the ticket. Then they turned around, went to my registration link, put your first name, last name, email address, their credit card number, right? Because you can do hey, I'm not the person registering, but I'm the person paying.
Mhm.
And they dumped your enrollment, and here you are. And they're like, what? Then, I send people to breakouts and stuff, and they're talking to each other like, well, what did you pay? Aaron, well, what did you pay? Angela?
Oh,
And then they're pissed. And
I
it's
can
like,
understand why.
I'm
Shouldn't
happy to have you
reseller
here.
value add? Not
Right.
value added reseller? Huh.
So then they're upset.
That
I'm like,
blows me away.
your only recourse is to go back to them. There's nothing I
Yeah.
can do for you. I mean, I'm happy to have you here, happy to get you trained and certified, but no, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Oh, we
So,
have a question.
yay.
I'm very excited. Sharon, I am confused about the Safe 5 courses and the Scrum Alliance. Do you know what the difference is to the industry?
So this is Aaron and I had this chat before we got on here. Sharon, right? You said her name is Sharon?
Sharon DeTroy.
So 'cause we thought if people name names with us, we would go there. Scaled Agile Framework is one of those competitors. So if you think about the Scrum Alliance as Coca-Cola, Scaled Agile Framework would be RC Cola. It would be Royal Crown Cola. So the word Agile is in there. There's no affiliation whatsoever with the Scrum Alliance and the Scrum organizations or the creators of Scrum. It is a framework that has the word Agile in it. Now, what I show my students is the timeline, right? Scrum Alliance founded in 2001. The certification came out in 2003. First Scrum team, 1993. Agile Manifesto written in 2001. Where's Scaled Agile Framework? Oh, it doesn't exist. Fact, doesn't exist. Okay, so 2011, Angela and Aaron are getting their CST. Woo woo. We're at the 10th anniversary of the Agile Manifesto in Salt Lake City. Everybody's partying like rock stars. Where's Scaled Agile Framework? It doesn't exist. It shows up on the scene at the beginning of 2012. So Agile's been around for a decade. Scrum's been around for over a decade. The person who invented Scaled Agile Framework had a hand in creating Rational Unified Process for IBM. So if you look at Scaled Agile Framework and you look at Rational Unified Process, you're going to see a lot of similarities. And because things like Scrum is open source, extreme programming is open source, because some of these early Agile methods aren't trademarked, it's kind of the wild, wild west. There's nothing stopping anybody from taking Scrummy terms and throwing it on their for-profit framework. Because let's be clear, Scaled Agile Inc. is a for-profit corporation, and it's a for-profit certification, and then they sell it. And so if you're looking for, well, aren't they the same thing? No, they're not. And there's no reciprocity between those two organizations. There's no affiliation. They are competitors.
There was, if I remember, a little bit of co-opetition.
Way back when.
Way back, there was a friendly agreement. Scrum Alliance said, we'll do role-based training and we'll stay out of the scaling game. And then Scaled Agile would refer people to the role-based training with Scrum Alliance. And then one of the little sayings is nail it before you scale it. So go get your training with Scrum Alliance, nail it, understand what it is, how it works with a team. Now go to Scaled Agile for scaling. But there is so much competition now. They started to wade into the role-based training, and now Scrum Alliance is also responding with scaled frameworks. And I know large scale Scrum is one of the licensed frameworks. I don't know. Are there others, Angela? Do you know?
That's the one that has the most integration, with Scrum Alliance, right? Is large scale Scrum. Because Less.Works has Certified Less Basics. The Less company has Certified Less Basic, which is a 1-day, and Certified Less Practitioner. But that's about it, unless you start talking about other competitors, like Scrum.org has Nexus, for example, right? Which it would be another competing organization. If you want to check if Sharon chatted a follow-up, or if she's like, no, that's not what I meant, happy to. Okay. Well, because I always say to students too, like, did I answer your question? And the hard thing about the format you and I are using, it's like, we don't get the luxury of that immediate feedback, right? We don't get the, no, you completely went too wide, or you bombed it.
I'm looking.
Okay.
So we can, I love these conversations. So we have SAFE, that's a scaling thing. We have Less, large scale Scrum. We have Nexus, Scrum at Scale. DAD, disciplined, agile delivery.
I forgot about DAD.
There's so many.
Which was acquired by PMI. So, if you're just trying to keep up.
PMI ACP.
Right.
They have their own Agile certification program.
Yeah.
So it is very confusing. And sometimes I do suggest, I guess, going back to the cola example, is blind taste test. Without maybe really knowing, sample a little bit. I mean, you have to know, really, to be able to do that. It can't be totally blind. But don't go just in one direction. If you don't know, figure out what you don't know, and sample some things can help you find your own way too.
Well, if we're going to stick really with the cola swap,
is the best.
Well, we're biased. We're biased. But, if we stick with the cola analogy, I always tell students, these are choices. So you could, insert obvious joke, Pepsi, it's the choice of a new generation. But I always tell them it's an individual choice. So I'm a big fan of education, right? Don't take somebody else's word for it. Don't take my bias, right? Like go educate yourself, make your choice. But I also let them know your company that you work for has some choices to make too. And so when organizations don't understand that, and like that leader I was referring to earlier, unbeknownst to her, she hired 2 competing organizations, and her people wound up ridiculously confused. So it's like, okay, you just wasted a bunch of time and a bunch of money. Now, was it really wasted? Because you learned some stuff. You did the blind taste test, right?
Yeah.
But where are you going to sit down and have a conscious conversation to say, now that we know better, or now that we had this education, what do we want to do? What are our goals and objectives? How do we want to meet those goals and objectives? What are we going to do as a result of this education? Because they're different.
Yeah. So you have to compare, contrast. And I think sometimes I saw one of these Gaping Void cartoons
Oh, we
talking
love you. We
yeah,
love you,
you
McLeod.
McLeod, good guy. Busy is the new stupid. You get so busy and so locked with those blinders on, don't slow down and do something like a compare contrast. There's maybe that bias again and latch on to something in a direction. It's like, I can't let go. We have to keep going in that direction. Maybe a little reflection, inspection, adaptation, change the thinking.
Right? Yeah. I tend to not sugarcoat Scrum with my students, though, because I want them to understand it does require not only structural change in your organization, but behavioral change. So there's a lot of choices to make, right? Not just you as an individual, but the company. And there may be other frameworks, there may be other choices on the menu that may not require the kind of structural change or behavioral change we're talking about. So the organization has to assess their comfort level with change also, because this means change. There's just no, definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again. Oh, why isn't it different?
Yeah.
So it's like, you can say Scrum, Scrummy Scrum. You can say Agile, Agile.
Agile,
But
agile.
yeah, Christian likes Agile. So, but are you really changing?
Yeah.
So, other thoughts?
No other questions there. Hopefully we addressed Sharon's question. I'm thinking about competition, and sometimes I'll be with a client and they'll hire another certified Scrum trainer or
Yep.
enterprise coach. And because one of the things I like about Scrum Alliance, they rely on us and our knowledge, experience, expertise. But that varies. And sometimes even in there, I don't know, things can go a little different. How do you feel about that? And working with others in our alliance, in our trade organization, what do you think works? What do you think people should watch out for?
Yeah, it's a great question because the Scrum Alliance isn't perfect. No organization is. And in any organization, nonprofit, for profit, not for profit, which is different than nonprofit, you're working with people. And I always say, you're working with people, you got problems. So there are people who don't have the best of intentions. They are looking to transform their bank account or they don't really care. Then there are people like me who are in it for the mission. And I tell people that because it's like, I could get a paycheck anywhere. I can go to Starbucks and make drinks, right? I choose to do this because this is what lights my fire. So when we look at cooperation, collaboration with others in the Scrum Alliance, it's got to be people who walk their talk. There's got to be this congruency that we can see, that we can experience in a conversation, that we can experience in attending a class. Like Christian and I attended your class. Bob Sarney attended one of mine. We have our little group, but Scott Dunn has attended one of mine. So it's working together and not only figuring out, oh yeah, we are pretty like-minded. Yeah, I'd pair with you on that. Yeah, I'd refer a client to you. Hey, if I can't teach one day and I'm sick, I would totally call you. I think where we get in trouble is when there's that varied range of experiences. And as a newer CST joining the community, it looks so different now than it did back then to me. And I don't know if you go through that same, what the hell happened? Nothing happened, idiot. You changed. So it's like
the world changed.
It's like the world didn't change. You changed. So and so I look at some of the newer ones coming through and they're like these shiny puppies, right? And they just want to solve problems. They just want to give prescriptive answers. And part of me goes, part of me is just like, don't tell them that. And then I'm like, were you so different? You were Angela, the problem solver. You gave a ton of bad advice, idiot. So the only way people are going to learn, first attempt in learning, is
fail.
is to get the crap kicked out of them,
Mhm,
whether it's by a client or a student or an entire class. It's
mhm.
just the way you learn. Now you and I have been at this long enough that we've had the crap kicked out of us. So we've had an opportunity to adapt based on those learnings.
Mhm.
Okay. That doesn't mean that I don't learn something from the newer trainers or the newer coaches, because sometimes it's nice to be reminded what
Oh,
things
yeah,
look like through that lens.
right. And somewhat pull away the veil of experience, see things through fresh eyes.
Hmm.
I like to work with people like that, and I learn so much actually from them, and sometimes patience, but also just their background and upbringing and what makes them unique, and being able to leverage that to to help them see what their purpose is, and maybe how I can help them, but it's reciprocated. I
Hmm.
also learn so much. It's actually, frankly, why I'm doing these webinars
Hmm.
or live streams. I mean, I did one this morning on liberating structures with Frederick. He's a certified team coach. And am I ever excited to use more of that liberating structure framework or those microstructures? Super fascinating to me. And so I think what I'm hearing you say is you'll maybe take a little risk uh, with somebody else. You've done your own fails before, and maybe in starting a collaboration, there's enough of a fail to say, you know what, let's part ways. But
Yeah.
if there's enough learning in there, let's take that next leap of faith.
Yeah. When it becomes hurtful, to either party, because let's be honest, for, some of those people who aren't interested in transforming the world of work, that are interested in transforming their bank account, and that's goal number one, no matter who they have to hurt to do it, right? So our community is small, and so when you start stabbing people on the back, it's like wait a minute. And I'm a pretty trusting person, so I've had that happen a couple of times, and so I think I've perfected my vetting process a little bit, when maybe before I was just like, say yes to everything, try everything. Like, even, saying yes to this, right? Christian
Hmm.
says to me this morning, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm talking to Aaron Sanders." And he goes, "How come you didn't ask me?" I'm like, "He didn't ask me either. He just threw this thing out there and I
I did.
responded."
I was trying to remember
"Oh,
how this happened.
how come I didn't see that?" I don't know. Did you read your email? Did you read the
Feels like
proposal?
the same conversation, a little different. By the way, let them know. Yeah, hit me up.
Yeah.
I need guests.
You two will just talk about dirt and excavators. So
Maybe,
I don't know.
maybe other things. And actually, Sharon, she says we answered her question, and oh, she took the course with me. And Sharon, if you want to be a guest on the show, because
Right?
I really, it's called working in an agile fashion. And I
Right.
like to talk to people that are in it and what's going on with them and what's hard and what's better. And, maybe I can help you evaluate different Scrum scaling frameworks or whatever else. But I just like to have this opportunity to talk to different people. And I'm wondering if you could match up your vetting process when you look to collaborate with people. Is there something in there that we could apply to vetting which training to go after and which type of training
Yeah.
company?
Yeah. So it's the what's in it for me, right? What's in it for me. So it should be this kind of equal exchange of value. So if you're going to look for a certification training, what's in it for you? What do you want to be when you grow up? What, what questions do you need answered? Does it matter to you what kind of organization you take it from? I mean, because some people it does, right? Like some people who hear nonprofit, they're like, I love supporting nonprofits. Like, right? That's my first thing that I want to do. I want to do good in
Mhm.
the world too. Or hey, I didn't know there was volunteer opportunities. I'd happily volunteer. Or there's a community I can join. Cool. And if those things are important to somebody, and they go to the Scrum Alliance website and they go, wow, there's all of it. There's certification, there's community, there's all this stuff. Boom, I'm in.
Yeah.
Versus if they're like, nah, I just want letters. I really don't care what the letters are, because some of the job postings just say a certification. They don't even say which one. I want to get it done as fast as possible. I don't
Need a
have any
job.
money. I
Right.
don't have a job. It's going to be cheap. Boom. First one that came up that meets those things. So I think somebody's really got to evaluate for themselves what's important to them and what's going to meet their own goals. And then that'll help to, navigate through some of it. Sometimes too, people will say, I don't even care if it's live online or if it's a recording, right? Like you mentioned Udemy. I don't know. I
Yeah.
never know if it's
How to say
Udemy,
that.
Udemy,
U2Me? I don't know.
I just, where do I put
Yes.
the emphasis on the syllable? But I just, because people will be like, oh my God, I was so relieved that it was interactive, right? And you threw us into group work and I got to learn from the other students, not just you, and the time flew by. Versus people who are like, nope, just want watch a bunch of videos. I don't need interaction. And then yet, I think you and I were talking before this started about, I did have somebody in my CSP SM recently, the Certified Scrum Professional, say, I'm just being transparent. This is a do-over. I didn't realize I signed up for a talking head, recorded videos. Not what I wanted. I needed the interaction. I needed the Q&A. So that's why I'm here. Oh, good to know. So I think reading comprehension is important.
Mhm.
Me included. That's another one of my things for 2021. I'm actually reading every word before I sign things. Isn't
Really?
that crazy?
It must take a while. Do you get a
Well,
lawyer involved on that?
well, we have one on the team. So
Ah.
I
I'm
always say the
thinking
best thing about
about
Terry, she's
clicking
mature
that
endorsing about
button.
her.
Do you agree? You
Right.
download the TOS and read through
But I've started
that?
saying,
Wow.
I'm going to need to get back to you in a day or two. Like, I need time to review this, because when I look back at the things that have caused me a lot of problems in my professional life,
Mhm.
it has been because I didn't read the fine print and I signed away. So student signs for the ticket. Here's my credit card. Boom, plunk my money down. And if they didn't read, then they find out after the fact. Okay, so if we're talking about a little bit of accountability, if we're talking about a little bit of personal responsibility, we're in the age of, does it fit in a tweet? Can I just read the headline in the email? Is it just a Slack post? We're just so conditioned to think fast, and we need to think slow. We need to slow down, because I know that a lot of problems could have been avoided for me personally by actually reading. So that's my other advice to students is actually read.
Know your purpose. Read the fine print.
Yes.
Do your homework.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing as themes from you.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Yeah. And I really feel for those that find themselves in that uncomfortable position of realizing they've wasted money, more importantly, wasting time.
Yep.
And back to that slow down. Maybe just take that extra second to really look through it and then go. But just take a breath first.
Yep. And it's not just me, at Collaborative Leadership Team. That's, so the nice thing is it's not just a catchy name. There is a team here. And so with the exception of Terry, who has the legal background, none of us on the team read. So it's kind of the New Year's resolution for the whole team is just
collectively.
We are, and so we're challenging each other on that, right? Like, did you read that? So nothing's going out unless it's read by 2 or 3 people, so even when we post stuff and yeah.
I gotcha.
Yep.
I thought though, like Brene Brown said, put out the crappy draft first or something like that. I don't know. This is my problem, basically, is not only don't I read, I'm not even that good and so again, why I'm doing the live stream, I try to blog, and I realize looking back at some of those, oh my gosh, I should have probably read that before I put it out there live to the world.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just a little
So we're
extra minute.
trying to do a lot of reading because I just it causes pain when you don't. So,
Yeah.
and then I love it when people try to shirk that responsibility, right? Well, you
Hmm.
didn't send it, or even worse, they reply to the very email that has the information they were looking for. So it's just like, um,
Yeah.
awkward.
Okay. Let's say somebody's done all their homework and
Yep.
they're so eager, ready to take a class. They're starting to look around. They see on the Scrum Alliance website all these different people and organizations. And uh, tell me, Angela, why should I come take a class with you and collaborative leadership team or one of your people?
So our big thing is truth telling, real change. We don't sugarcoat it. You're going to get the real dirt. We don't believe those who teach, those who can't do teach. We believe those who do should teach. So not only do we work this way, we have actual case studies, actual clients. And when we have permission to name names, we do. When we don't, we sanitize those, but we bring all these case studies to our classes, and they are live, they are interactive. You know, we're in COVID times still, sadly. So the live online is interacting not only with us as instructors, but with other people from other companies, right? So they're getting that experience. The other thing that we're told is that the time flies by, that people don't even realize. Like,
You're
you just
having
kept
fun
us so
then.
engaged. Well, we're
Nice.
big believers in brain science and, adult learning, and so we do all that stuff too. But we still do role playing. We still do simulation. We still throw people into it. And I'm finding that not all of our peers do that. And I think it's so important because when the stakes are really low in a
Mhm.
training class, hey, nobody's getting fired today.
Right.
Practice in a safe environment where it's okay to fail and you can, learn from it. The last
Exactly
thing you
that.
want to do is be doing this for the first time at work or with your colleagues when the stakes are
Yeah.
higher, presumably. And then, you're like, oh God, I don't even know what words are supposed to come out of my mouth. So people are like, oh gosh, thank you so much for the practice. Thank you so much for the practice opportunity. Yeah, no problem. So
Makes sense.
that's a little bit about what makes us different.
It sounds really cool. And also I've heard if you want to learn, teach. And through the simulations, you have a safety net. And with people from different organizations and whatever, they can draw on their own personal experience and maybe help level up somebody else in their group on their team as they're going through a class as well.
Yes.
Start
Yes,
to learn from each
exactly.
other.
Yep.
Do your participants wind up staying connected after class?
Absolutely. Um, I link in with every student, and I always tell people, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to stay in touch with you. Yes, we want people coming to the Scrum Alliance to find you or to find us, but I always say, go look, go, give me a search on LinkedIn or Google, because
Hmm.
you'll see the reviews from happy students, the reviews on LinkedIn. We also, as community service, offer what we call Ignite Agility. That's our free meetup, because it's what we call our approach and our community. And
Hmm.
because COVID's sadly still with us, those are all virtual for the first 2 quarters of 2021. And that's been the fun thing about COVID for me. If there can be any silver lining or positive, not only can people from around the country or around the world, for that matter, come
Hmm.
to our free meetup, I get to go to other people's meetups. I wouldn't have been able to do that, before. Like Gene Gendel has a wonderful Works. Uh, it's devoted to large scale Scrum, and I got to learn his magic because man, does he get some big names speaking at those meetups, and it's fun to get to go to those. And I wouldn't have been able to do that. Oh yeah, just run to New York to a meetup
Right.
group. No, I don't think so. So meetup.com, Ignite Agility, we are endorsed by the Scrum Alliance. So what's nice for our students is free Scrum education units,
All
and free is
right.
good, to maintain
Yes.
their certification.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, we're about at the conclusion here, Angela. Any final thoughts?
I think you recapped it nicely. So maybe you should just recap it again. What's
Can I?
our big outcome for let the student beware? It was know your purpose, right? Know
Mhm.
what you're looking for in a certification. It was read the fine print.
Yep.
What was the third one?
Yeah, see, I'm gonna have to go through this whole video and find out. But for sure, know
Right?
your purpose. Oh, slow down. Just
Slow
take a
down.
beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then go
Reading
and do it.
comprehension will save your life.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for hosting.